pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to tonight's Planning Board meeting. There's agendas near the door if you need one. We're going to follow the cases in the order of the agenda. If there is an emergency, please exit to the left. Please take the stairs and do not take the elevator. The cases will be reviewed tonight. The applicants will come up and make their presentation. Please state your name and your address. And if it's a public meeting, we will hold a public meeting. Anybody can speak to the case. Please state your name and your address. With that, and all of this will be broadcast on ICAT 1303. With that, Michelle, please call the first case.
First case on the agenda is public hearing, case number PB 2024-05-01, request by Ben Sun for signage approval to maintain existing building-mounted signage on premises 850 East Ridge Road in a C business district.
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm here for 850 East Ridge Road.
Name and address, please.
Mochinut, 850 East Ridge Road.
Your name and address.
My name, Ben. Oh, my home?
Yes.
Ben Sun, 192 Peakview Drive, Henrietta, New York,
Okay.
14467.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm here to apply for the signage for 850 East Ridge Road. Currently, we got three separate restaurants in one location, and we need to put all the signs up outside on the building.
Okay, and can you describe what, I think in the application, can you describe the signs you're going to be putting up?
Yep, we got a total of 3 signs, and there's Mochina sign, and Nashville spicy chicken, as well as Sun's Mongolian barbecue, and we're going to be putting on top of the outside of the building the signs. It's 4 by 8, and there's going to be a foot in the between of all the signs.
What's between the signs?
Just a gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what are the signs made of?
Aluminum, aluminum vinyl over the top with backing, with vinyl backing.
Okay, and that's going to replace the current ones that are just vinyl
There's
signs?
nothing there right now. It's just the vinyl, regular vinyl that we had to take it down to replace it with a new one.
Okay. Any other questions or anything else you want to state to the?
No.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Are the signs going to be lit?
No, there's going to be light shining on it from the latch
From above?
above
Shining down.
shining down. Yeah.
Do you know what that is going to be?
It's going to be the signs.
No, the lighting.
The lighting, it's 50 watts lights, more like one of those. Right now we have the garage leaf. I don't know what you call them. Just regular garage light.
Floodlight?
The LED floodlight. Yeah.
Is what is currently there.
Yeah, that's there right now.
And what are you going to do to keep it dark sky compliant?
Well, what do you mean?
What's going to stop it from bleeding all over everything but the signs?
Right now it's just spread out. I mean, we can make improvement for direct light shining towards the sign. We can do that as well.
So for clarity, are you changing the lighting that's there now?
Right now we're not on the paper, but we can.
No, my question is, you currently have exterior lighting on the sign.
Yes.
Are you changing it?
No.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm not satisfied with the answer, but you had answered the question.
Any other questions? With that, anything from Labella, the town? It meets all the codes I was reading?
I took a cursory look, and as long as everything checked out and as long as the signs are 20% or less of the facade, then it's good to go in terms of code.
Okay. With that, if you have nothing else to say, I'll open it up for public hearing.
No.
Okay, so just take a quick seat. It'll probably be real quick.
Okay, thank you.
And then be back up. I'd like to open this for public hearing. Anybody who'd like to speak to this case, please come to the podium. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Comments, questions, concerns?
I'm just not sure about the lighting on this.
I'm okay if it's what's existing there now. I've gone by. So as long as he's not changing it, making it brighter. That's me, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he says 50 watts, right? And it's pointing, it's like hanging over and pointing back,
Over, yeah, right.
Okay.
pointing back at the sign. Yeah, I'm okay with
Yeah, it'd have been nice to have that on the drawing.
Well, it's
it. As
existing.
long as it's,
Yeah.
he's not making any changes to it. So if we go back there in a month and it's
I think I
there
would want that as a condition then.
That it's existing?
There's, with
to
any
utilize.
changing to the light would have to come back to this board.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that. Any other questions? Okay.
The only thing I wonder about is how secure it's going to be to the building. Will that be
applicant can
something
come
the
back.
building department would follow up on? All right. I'm satisfied with that. You're good.
Okay, all right.
I'll just note that all signs have to meet New York State Building Code, and part of their review is how a sign is fastened to a wall. So our enforcement officers are not going to approve something that is going to fall off. But so yes, that's part of building code.
And then the one last thing, Bernie, and I'm sorry. There's a pylon sign out on this property. Are we doing anything with that?
I don't believe it's in the scope of this application. I don't believe that the applicant is asking for any additions to the pylon sign.
The pylon sign that's on closer to the road, are you making any changes?
No, nothing.
Okay.
The sign's is not visible enough, so we have to have signs that's on the building.
Okay. All right. So in regards to case number, unless there's any other comments? In regards to case number PB 2024-05-01, this is a type 2 action. I'll entertain a motion.
On PB 2024-05-01, that we approve the application with the condition that no lighting should be changed without coming back to this board, and that no additional signage be added without coming to this board. That cool?
Can I make one modification to your first one?
You definitely can do whatever you would
No
like.
existing lighting changed?
Yeah.
I just want to add the word existing.
I don't want any additional lighting added either without it coming here, so if you think that captures that.
I think it does. No existing lighting changed.
Any new lighting change or additional signage shall return to the planning board for approval.
That's good. I can go with that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. It's Blocky, Burdick, Hefner, Richards, Huber. That passes 6-0. Good luck and success with the business. Thank you very much.
All set. Thank you. Next case is a public hearing, case number PB 2024-05-02, request by Marathon Engineering acting as agent for TK Owner LLC for signage approval to install one building-mounted sign and 3 tenant panels on existing pylon and monument signs on premises 2255 East Ridge Road, Carver Ridge Plaza in the C Business District.
Good evening. My name is John August. I live at 1151 Clover Street. I'm one of the owners of TK Irondequoit Owners, which is the Burlington. We're here with the Burlington signage application we heard at the workshop last week. I talked to Michelle on Friday. I understand the staff has analyzed the code in our application. We believe we're trying to put up 272.7 feet versus a code I believe has a maximum of 350 feet. That's on the building sign. The 3 pylon signs, they're going to go on all 3 utilizing blank panels. They're now via the lease agreement. When one of the little monument sign in the front is needed, they will remove their sign and give way to a future tenant. Made out of Lexan, but I think our detail that we've submitted should answer any questions about the fabrication or the materials used. Happy to answer any question, but we're here to respectfully request approval of the signage.
For the public's sake, can you let them know what your plan is for when this is all going to be ready, started?
We are only waiting really for this as the last to sign the Burlington lease or remove all the contingencies in the Burlington lease. The others are set and follow right behind for a number of reasons. It was important to sign the Burlington lease first by their request. We think we are just about ready to pull a demo permit. It will probably take the better part of 3 to 5 months to do the demo, to get all the seats and all the raised platforms out of the main part of the building and get it ready, demised for what will be eventually 5 tenants, the 3 majors, Burlington, 5 below, and Kids Empire. 2 smaller tenants that are not identified. They're very small units, I think about 2,500, just to kind of take up some of the space when we place the large tenants in. Hopefully, we're trying for March of 2025. Our fallback, if we can't meet that, is September. They have a lot of blackout dates. My guess is if we're not ready in March, it'll be taken possession in April or May.
Thank you. Michelle, was there any other follow-ups from the last meeting that we had? I don't recall.
Not that I recall, sir.
Right. And nothing's changed since you came before the workshop?
Just the remeasurement by using the proper Irondequoit codes of measuring.
Okay. Any other questions? This is a public hearing, correct?
Thank you.
Yep.
Correct.
So, anybody who would like to, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak regarding this?
She's here to support me, but I don't know.
You can come to the podium if you, okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there anything LaBella or the town wants to add to this application?
Nothing further to add. I guess I will add that as the applicant had mentioned, the original calculations showed a larger sign. However, as he had mentioned, the Irondequoit sign essentially allows for lettered sign like that to be the area of the actual letters, as opposed to maybe creating a rectangle around all the letters. So by having the more precise measurements, actually the size has reduced just in terms of how it's measured in the code.
Thank you. Any other questions from anybody?
I'm just seeing the the breakdown on the signs being face lit, but we have 6,500K LED modules.
Those are backlit, though.
I'd have to read that, I'm afraid. Friday,
Halo
our
lit.
sign person
Yeah,
came in
okay,
from
so that
California
was-
last week, and
There's one that's halo lit with 6,500.
I know the B has I looked at the B, which looks like a heart, is a 3 sign, if that's the one you're referring to. I think to create the halo effect, I looked at the detail, and I think you've got 3 centers to try to create a little different look than the other signs.
Do you have an issue with that, Nate? Or?
No, it's brighter than typical for us on either, because one's face lit and one is halo lit, so.
No concerns?
No.
Okay. So this is I'm sorry, you could take a seat.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions for him. Oh, there is.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The signage, does that come on and go off at certain times, or what is the?
Normally, our normal leases, 11 p.m. is the latest they can run. I can check with them if the town wanted or had a code that was reduced from that. They'll accommodate whatever the town code allows.
Yeah, you're right. Usually the contingency is what, an hour before and 2 hours after?
After sunlight and sunset?
No, after
Or,
the close of business.
Business hours.
Yeah.
I
You don't have-
understand.
No issue with that?
Should not be, no, not at all.
All right. So in regards to case number PB 2024-05-02, this is a type 2. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, on PB 2024-05-2, we approve this application as presented, with the condition that the lights are extinguished 2 hours post-closing and are relit 1 hour before opening.
We understand.
Do I have a second?
Sure, second.
I got it. Ms. Haynes, I got it.
I didn't hear. Is your microphone on?
Shelley?
Second.
You got to turn on your mic. All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you very much, and to the staff for your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Much success with the changes.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, case number PB 2024-05-03, request by Colliers Engineering acting as agent for Regional Transit Services in New York, Irondequoit Self-Storage, LLC, Life Storage, for signage approval to amend the existing monument sign on premises 2111 Hudson Avenue in a C business district.
Hi, good evening. My name's Andy Hart with Colliers Engineering and Design. Here with me is Dave Velasquez from RTS. And at our last workshop meeting, we had a discussion on the life storage sign as it reflects the RTS purchase of that parcel as part of their new connection hub. I think the boards had a little hesitancy for us to raise the sign, so we went back and looked at trying to improve visibility. And by doing that, we thought we could push it closer to the road. We submitted a plan this afternoon to Michelle. Hopefully she got it to the board. That shows we can actually move that sign 22 and a half feet closer to the road and still meet town code 15-foot setback. Dave did bring some pictures to show you kind of how the landscaping around it, where it sits today, kind of blocks some of the view. So if you're interested in seeing those, we can pass
Sure,
that around.
you can pass them around. If you have one for Michelle too, please make sure she gets one.
And with this relocation, you're going to maintain the typical height that it's at now?
Yes, unless, of course, the board would allow us to raise it. I've been obligated to ask the question, but that's okay.
I'm sorry.
I was obligated to just ask if we could raise it, but if the board would prefer us to keep it, then we'll do that.
I mean, we'd like to take any height we can get, so, I mean, whatever that the board will allow. I did meet with oops, I'm sorry. So we'd like to take any height increase we can get, if the board is willing to consider any of that. I did meet with the branch, folks at the branch. In general, they were very supportive of our operations and of the sign. They actually have 2 employees that take the bus there and work there, and then they said a lot of their customers do use our bus to get to the facility as well. They did say that I should reach out to the facilities manager. Unfortunately, I did numerous times, and we still haven't heard back from them. So I'm not sure what their opinion would be, but again, the folks at the branch were supportive.
Okay. So for clarity, your application does ask for 8 to 14 feet. So to make this correct, you're now asking for it to be moved, and you should make a request at what you're asking for the height if you want a height increase. If you're saying it doesn't matter, we'll take it as it doesn't matter. But you should specify what you would like.
Well, I'd prefer to get a vote in the positive. Does the board have any thoughts on a height that they'd be willing to accept?
I'm looking more like a design feature because right now it's currently at grade with no base. And all the buildings around are brick. So a lot of the monument signs that come in front of us have a brick base, gets them up off the ground a little bit. You're going to be somewhat in conflict with the Wegmans entrance sign now. So that would give you a little bit of relief if you had a monument base to some elevation being, but 8 feet just seems extreme to me.
Well, I mean, the height we were asking for was 6 feet.
6 feet more.
Was 6 feet more, so.
And even that would put it above.
So it says here it's
entrance
8 feet now. What is it now? I'm sorry.
It's 8 feet.
It's
Yep.
8 feet now.
The top of the
Current
sign is
sign.
8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they would, trying to raise it to 14 would be a 6-foot increase, so.
Would the board consider a 3-foot increase?
Is that your
I would
request?
not.
I'm actually okay if he puts it on a base.
Yeah, I think, to me, a 2-foot base would get the bottom of the sign in to where the directional to the entrance wouldn't be as much. It'd give you some eye relief, and it would actually set off the sign better with a base than just being blended into the grade.
So you're talking from the black, so you're talking about 2 feet above the bottom here? Because right now, there's just this black area.
There is something
There's
that
a-
looks as if it's a base at this
Correct.
moment.
Correct.
I do have a more fundamental question.
What is the-
But let
have
him answer that
dimensions on
question
this
first.
sign.
And then, so can you clarify what your,
This is how it looks today out there right now,
Yeah,
Pictures that we submitted, you should be able to see that black base
in the pictures.
in the pictures. It's really a single post. The only thing holding that sign up is a single post. And then it's supported around, the base is supported around that single post in the middle. There's not a lot of structure there at the moment. It's enough to hold the sign up though.
so if we do give you a height increase though, you'd have to change that
We could
base.
probably change the base. We could change the base and provide a more decorative base if the board would allow that. If we could raise it another 3 feet to make up, or 2 feet to make up for that base height, that would be great.
So your request is that raise it 2 feet and get a decorative base? Does that work with
Is
the
the
board?
black panel, was that to be utilized for a different,
No.
so
Never,
can we
no.
eliminate that and incorporate that into the base?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
blacked out. It's,
Absolutely.
you know, it's,
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
these pictures are
can I
just far
just
enough
ask
away.
a question?
Sure.
You guys still haven't talked to corporate offices about this, right? The guys on the ground said it's okay. Do they have that authority?
Oh, no.
So, do you guys have the authority
I'm not sure what you mean.
to move the sign?
Which corporate offices are you talking about? You mean
The life storage.
Oh, yes, we do.
Because
Yes,
you-
I'm sorry.
The way you were presenting it to me, you talked to the guys that work there and they were good with it. But I just want to make sure that,
Just to clarify, the people we were talking to were the people at Summit Federal Credit Union. Those were the folks that asked us to do it. With respect to the folks in life storage, yes, we have the authority,
okay.
just to clarify. The board had asked that we check with Summit Federal Credit Union.
I just requested if they got feedback from Summit last.
Yeah,
day of
no,
workshop.
I just wanted to make sure that I was, since they weren't identified.
Their lighting?
Sure, sure. No, it's a little confusing.
Is this
for-
internally,
Great
is this,
mind reading, I just was not good at it.
is this internally lit? I can't recall. Is it?
It is.
So currently the sign is 8 feet, about 8 feet tall.
Correct.
Okay. And so, I mean, I would be in favor of allowing you to keep the existing sign height and move it out towards the road, which is, I think, what you came in kind of asking
Right.
for tonight.
Yeah.
If you want to incorporate a brick base to that, I think that would be desirable. But I would not be in favor of adding any additional height to the sign.
Yep. That's why the application, I mean, that's what we came back with the application. If that's,
So
Yeah,
I think,
because
Nate,
I
where are
think-
you on that? You're okay if we add the base?
Yeah, I'm okay. I want the base. I think it would definitely aesthetically blend better.
And I'm okay with that too. Alan?
My only question is the setbacks, right? If we're talking about raising it up,
No, the 15 is what meets the setback, so.
We're going to leave it at 8 feet.
okay.
No,
Because
no,
it's,
it's increasing it by 2 feet is what. Brad says he doesn't want to increase
I thought we were
it.
subbing out some of the black bottom.
The clarification, the base could be added to it without adding height to it, or it could be added to add height to it. What was your, or no decorative, you could have no, you could move it out and have no decorative base. You could move it out and have a decorative base, both of those options keeping the same height. Or you could move it out, have a decorative base, and add approximately 2 feet of height to it, I think are the 3 options that are on the table.
We like the last one.
So they're asking.
Well, I mean, there's really no benefit to add in the decorative.
There's no incentive to the applicant to move it out and add the decorative base.
So my compromise was a low one at 2 feet, just to get the decorative base. It blends better, gets rid of that black panel. Just as a suggestion from one of us.
With raising the height or not?
It would
Yeah.
allow a 2-foot elevation.
And I'm
So-
okay with that.
So still, back to the setback.
Right,
The setback is 15 feet from any property line.
yes.
Currently, they're showing it at 11
No,
to the north, to federal, because it was 15, and they're
That's not
moving it 4 feet
property
closer
line,
to
though.
federal, or Summit Federal
Well,
Credit
my
Union.
interpretation was 15 feet from the right-of-way. I didn't know it was from adjacent parcels as well.
Oh, it's got to be the property line.
If that's the case, then we can't move it.
right, we're losing that.
Yeah. You don't have 15 feet from the north.
There's not 30 feet
There's not
total
30
in that
feet.
opening.
Because the right-of-way does kind of that, it turns in towards the parcel, creates that weird dimension because of that.
Yeah. So if it's property line, yeah, we can't even move it then.
So then we'd want to have that extra 2 feet. We gotta leave it.
I don't,
Okay, so I'm going to go back. Your original application was going from an 8-foot to a 14-foot. You explored moving the sign forward. We now realize that's not possible. And now you're asking for?
Now we're back to our original application, same location, but we'll raise it 2 feet.
2 feet. So from 8.5 feet to 10.5 feet.
Yep.
And that's taking, can we take the black off of there?
Sure.
Does that offer come with a brick base?
Yeah.
Yes.
What does that base look like?
It'll just be
right.
brick to match. We probably don't want to match the Summit Federal Credit Union. We probably want to try to make it match something that looks like.
So is it going to be blue brick? What is it going to be?
No,
I mean,
no,
I don't.
We'll make it.
That's my only hesitation about approving a decorative base, is that I've not seen it. It's not been part of their application.
We do have brick for
Right, yep.
for our proposed site. So
For
the
RTS,
buildings and the piers for the masonry.
Yeah.
So we could use that gray brick as the decorative
It'll
brick.
match that.
Yeah.
And then it matches our proposal for our building.
And
I'm
that
just
would
not
stand
comfortable
out.
voting for something that I don't know. So
I'm comfortable. Is anybody?
Well, what we could do is we could make a contingent on the approval from the town staff of the color, if you want.
well, except that it's not the town staff's job
Well,
to
I
do
mean,
that.
well, no, I understand that, but I guess I meant,
I don't want these guys to have to come back again. I think if they're going to
Yeah,
match.
no, I
what's
mean,
going
I'm going to be
for
for a negative
RTS.
vote, so count, and you should be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be fine if we match the proposed brick that's already been approved for the RTS
okay.
as a contingent.
Shelley, Dan, you got any additional comments? And good catch, Dan, on that.
Yeah, I think the black is just,
Yeah, they're gonna reduce the black. Is that what I heard? And you're gonna add a decorative base and raise it 2 feet.
2 feet.
Black?
No, 2 feet.
2 feet tall.
That's not nice.
Well, that's why it's like, I really would like to see it on paper.
I got it, but these guys have been before us like twice now, so.
So the sign, the sign is, approximately 6 feet, right? Then we're gonna have, is all the black going away, or what are your thoughts on the height of this base?
I would think we just make it all go away.
So the brick will go right up to the bottom of that 6 foot sign, or 6 foot sign, approximate 6 foot. All the black is gone, and then that could be, and I don't, whatever brick makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, I think that would be attractive.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
I mean, for permanent numbers, we're currently at 8 feet, 1/2 of an inch. So we'd be going to 10 feet, 1/2 of an inch for the overall height.
Yep.
And we would eliminate the black panel using like-for-like brick to match.
So, Board, can I just clarify, you're installing a brick base. Removing the black base and installing a brick base is the first condition, correct?
Correct.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. And the max height is 10.5 feet.
No, 10 feet, 1/2 of an inch.
10 feet, half
10
inch.
feet, half inch.
I read it wrong. Thank you.
Oh, and brick base to match proposed RTS?
Correct.
Which is a gray color right now.
Facade. Okay. It's just a lot of, I apologize.
No, that's good.
No, that's fine. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, this is a public hearing, so give me 1 second. You can probably stay right there. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak to this case, please come forward. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, in regards to PB 2024-05-03, it's a type 2. And I'm going to make the motion that in regards to case number PB 2024-05-03, Michelle, could you please read those conditions again, please?
Sure, install a brick base, removing the black base. Brick base proposed as same as RTS facade. Max height 10 feet and 1/2 inch.
Do we need the lighting conditions on this as well?
But
No,
this is,
on and off.
Whatever you guys want.
So, yes. Also add a condition that
So
the.
hold on. Didn't we already put conditions on this when it was first installed, that those would remain?
oh,
I don't think there's,
I-
might
I
as
think
well
they
just-
may have.
It's okay to add them again? I just double checking.
I think we may have.
The trick here is, though, I believe this is a 24-hour facility, correct?
Right.
Storage, this is a life storage,
So there's no necessarily,
That's what yeah.
what did we do? I wish I knew what we did last time.
I didn't bring it.
I would just, if you're going to do it, just say following the same on and off conditions as previously approved.
That's what I was going to
Okay.
propose, yeah.
Let's not make this hard.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Negative. Not because I don't like the project, I don't like us designing it.
I apologize for the going back and forth. Not normally how we operate.
Yeah.
So I got 5A, 1 nay, and 1 absent. It's approved, and best of luck with this project. Can't wait to see it. Can you tell for the public when's it gonna, what does the timeline look like?
So we are going to our board the end of June, June 27th, the last Thursday of June. We award the contract, and we anticipate starting construction probably beginning of August, hopefully.
It'll be done by,
Well, we're looking at either the end of the year or June of the following year, depending on how the contractor bids come in.
okay, and just for clarity, you're gonna do this whether or not there's any changes made down the road, or
Changes,
the other project's on hold?
yeah, we're moving ahead.
You moving?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Best of
thank
luck
you very
with
much.
the
I
project.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bernie, could you reiterate who seconded that motion?
Mr. Burdick.
Mr. Burdick. And just for my clarification, the sign is back in the original location.
Correct.
Correct. Should I add that, or, no?
Sign is not
No,
moving.
because they took off the moving it. When you're ready, Michelle, we're ready for the next case.
Okay. Next case is a public hearing as well, PB 2024-05-05, request by Michael Nolan, I-Square, for final site plan approval conforming to existing as-built drawings on premises 775 Titus Avenue in a mixed-use commercial district pursuant to settlement agreement and mutual release dated April 18th, 2024, between the town and I-Square in the litigation caption, Town of Irondequoit versus I-Square LLC, indexed number E as in Edward 202-301-4260. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Mike Nolan, I-Square, offices now located at 500 Bakers Park. We are here tonight in furtherance of our settlement agreement with the town to eliminate the lawsuit the town has against I-Square. And part of that is to receive your approval for the as-built site plan and specifically a number of items on there, the number of cottages in the Brookside cottages, the small parking lot in the rear of the Brookside cottages, the parking lot in front of the brewery, the curb cut along Lorraine Drive, and the outdoor seating, looking for a referral to the town board for the outdoor seating. In response to the things we discussed at the workshop, we subsequently submitted a landscape plan and came up with a small low fence that seems like it would be a good balance from our conversation at the workshop where we talked about both wrought iron and or a split rail type fence. This seems to be a good blend of both. I hope everybody's received that, along with some evergreen plantings in front of it to provide further shield. It was also talked about the longevity and the light and the vibrancy of plantings along that area is irrigated, and we expect our plants will survive very well there. In addition, although it borderlines just a little bit out of the scope, we did submit locations of all the light fixtures on the site and the poles, picture of them, and a location for one new pole that would be added. Also was requested at the workshop that we submit a plan with a signature block for the chairman to sign, and it was also discussed that do something with the planters to protect better against vehicular traffic coming in and out of the brewery. And our planters, as I had thought, do have a base that lends itself to be bolted down or toggled to the ground in a way. We just ask that we have a little bit of time to do that as we're resurfacing the patio once all these steps are approved, and we're good to go and do that.
Thank you. Before we start, do you want to add anything to this, as you did at the workshop, just for the public so they understand what we're looking at and what we're not looking at?
Sure. So, as Mr. Nolan mentioned, this application was submitted following litigation commenced by the town that alleged that the I-Square development was built not in conformity with the site plan that was approved by this board. So there are certain items in the settlement agreement that was reached for which I-Square was required to come back to the board to get approval. Those include the number of cottages constructed in the Brookside cottages, certain parking spaces constructed there, a parking lot in the northeast corner of the development, a curb cut along the west side of Lorraine Drive of the development, and the outdoor dining at the brewery. So I think a number of those items are depicted in or attempted to be addressed in the plan that was submitted by Mr. Nolan, and it's up to the board to review those and determine whether they satisfy the board's review.
Thank you. Any questions from the board members? questions?
We got the comments from Bella. Maybe we just could have them walk through them.
Sure, I just wanted to know, nobody has any questions at this time?
Oh, for the applicant?
Yeah.
Okay. Not right now.
No questions? Okay. LaBella, would you like to add?
Sure, just give me a minute to find my letter, and then I can go through it. Oh, thank you. Apologies for not being prepared. So similarly, that has already been reiterated by legal counsel as well as the applicant that this review by the board is limited to a scope that's outlined in the settlement agreement that has been shared with you all. LaBella did try to keep our comments to within those limitations because they're no use if this board has no authority to act on them. The first being the number of residential units. Those decreased to 14. LaBella does not have any issues with that in concept. In our letter, we did note that we did not review a lot of the things that a town engineer would review. We didn't review grading, drainage, stormwater, landscaping, any of those things related to the cottages. However, that is, when I'm looking at this, I don't believe that is part of the scope. It's simply the number of units. Then going to the number of residential parking spaces, I believe that is specifically pointing to those additional parking spaces closest to Lorraine Drive in the residential area. Again, LaBella has no issues with the concept of that. However, we did not review the dimensions of that, the grading of that, etc. Then next was the parking lot along Titus. We provided a few possibilities for the board to consider in terms of screening, because generally having a mixed-use structure right along the pedestrian walkway, the right-of-way, is going to have a different effect than a parking lot. And we ultimately deferred to the board. It seemed that the board sort of came to a decision at the workshop, maybe not a decision, but somewhat of a consensus at the workshop to include plantings and a fence to provide that type of screening. Next is the curb cut on the west side of Lorraine Drive. For that, we just noted that the board may want to consider potentially, well, I was going to say increased commercial circulation or traffic on Lorraine Drive. However, at the workshop, it seemed that the board had mentioned that you all already discussed opening that curb cut at a later time, and I'm assuming that now is that later time. And then for outdoor seating, a major issue is just safety. And ensuring that there's no conflict between outdoor patrons and vehicles that are circulating the parking lot, just making sure that there is some sort of barrier along the perimeter. The fire access apparatus access road is, I just put that as a note, but that is ultimately within the authority of the fire marshal. I just included that in this note just as a reiteration that the through road that was in the proposed drawing is not on the table for the review of the planning board. And then a couple of the other items are just notes. One being including a signature block because obviously that's required in order to gain approval, as well as potentially including a note on the plans indicating that this approval is per the settlement agreement between the town and I-Square on the date in April that it was executed, et cetera. And so, thank you, Mr. Nolan. Labella did put together a draft resolution for the board just based on your comments from the workshop. There's no obligation for the board to move forward with that. I just wanted to be prepared in the case that the board does want to move forward. And I think that a resolution is the best method to place the board's approval or disapproval, conditions or no conditions, just to ensure that it is comprehensive and substantial because it will be part of the legal proceedings.
Thank you. Mr. Nolan, anything you want to say about the Labella comments, or?
No, I think most of those were kind of discussed at planning board. I don't think there was any new questions in there, was there, from beyond the workshop? Okay. And then the workshop comments, as I said, we addressed them. We do, Michelle, you should have received just recently, that within the last couple hours, with the signature block. That was my last item on my checklist, and we got that over.
So before I open, oh, you can ask a question, go ahead.
I do have a question, kind of being new.
Could you make sure your mic's on?
It is on.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Yep.
The landscaping plan and the lighting plan we got, I'm used to seeing the actual plans that look like these. And the way the landscaping plan, the lighting plan looks, are these official? Like if we approve these, they don't have like a signature and something that we have to put word for word in a resolution because they're not real.
Sure. Many of the individuals up here are a bit more seasoned, but yes, you are correct. Usually, when you have a site plan, I guess this is considered an as-built configuration, but usually those things have multiple sheets, right? And usually it's like existing conditions, what's there now, what you're proposing. Obviously, we don't have that here because it's an as-built, so right, you're not going to have an existing conditions. But yeah, usually there's additional sheets that are part of a plan set, and that can include something like grading, but that's not applicable here. But yeah, you could also include a landscaping plan, you could include a lighting plan, erosion and sediment control, et cetera. So yeah, usually all those things are within a singular plan set created by an engineering firm with their stamp on those, to then be signed by the chair once all of the conditions are like adequately demonstrated on those plan sets. So, so the approved plan should demonstrate all of the proposed conditions. What you're signing should be everything that you want. You wouldn't want to sign a plan that doesn't depict the conditions that the board may pursue.
So we'll get a different set of paperwork for final signature, is what you're stating? I just want to
Well,
be clear.
if the board decides that if you move forward and say, we want such and such planning, we want such and such fence, it should all be part of one plan set, because that's how it usually is. It's just, in my mind, different because it's an as-built, so you're not having an existing condition and a proposed. You just have like an as-built with whatever conditions that you're requiring of the applicant. Because that's what the inspector is going to go out and use when they're determining if a site complies with your decision as the planning board.
Sorry.
I just want to ask, so if we go forward with this tonight, Mr. Nolan, what were you going to submit?
My my understanding of the way this would work is the plan itself is the as-built drawing and the final site plan. The landscaping we shown was merely to demonstrate what Mr. Huber brought up and asked for as a condition of, or a request made by the board to add some landscaping or a small fence there. So we wanted to get it so we're all on the same page showing what it would be and what it would look like. I would think that would satisfy the request. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Mr. Huber, but that was the intention of that, was really just to put on paper so that we're all on the same page as far as what we plan on planting there. if I had gone through engineering and gone back through TY Lynn to do this, I would never have gotten it done in the week's time we had for this, but,
So I hear you. So
Yeah.
I want to ask legal. So one of the recommendations made was a plan that could be signed, with all the proper folks.
Right.
So it would be a new plan. I just want to make sure, since there was a lawsuit involved, that we're all doing it correct. So tell me what our limitations are. What can we do here?
So, from a legal perspective, because this is sort of a unique situation, and I don't know if there's particular codes, right, that we're trying to follow to resolve this here. I think moving forward, it would be in everyone's best interest that we're not done up in the same boat again, to have the clearest depiction as possible of what the board approved and what has been signed off on. So if that is the final as-built plan set depicting the landscaping, I think that would be sufficient. I think, and probably the best practice. Short of that, I think there should be some detail in a resolution about what exactly is required to satisfy this condition of the settlement. And if it's along the same lines as what's depicted in the landscaping plan or something different, that should be laid out. And ultimately, there should be some graphical depiction that's either attached to that resolution or attached to the final approved plan, in addition to the narrative description that everyone can look at. And to Kate's point, whoever goes out and inspects the property can refer to confirm that what was agreed upon is actually done.
Okay, and so we could move forward tonight with that contingency that he has to provide that type of a plan, or not? That's what I'm trying. I
Yes.
just want to make sure we're memorializing this the correct way. So
You can.
you don't have to come back again. So.
If this is acceptable to the board, then yes, you can move forward with this. If there are other things that you would want to see, then I think that should be memorialized in the resolution, and whatever is ultimately agreed upon here should be reflected in an updated plan if it somehow deviates from what was submitted.
I think I hear what Shelley is saying in terms of the as-built plans are clear and have all the elements that we usually see. But the additional landscape and lighting plans that are submitted are, I think the intention is clear in terms of what you're looking to do and the conversation that we had at workshop. And I think that, but I think that the detail is missing from the plan in order to facilitate building inspections and make sure that it is exactly what we approved. So a couple of things that jump out to me are like scale, right? How long is the fence? A detail, I think those were in the comments, a detail of the planter boxes that you want to use at the patio, a detail of the fence. Usually when we get those, we'll see like a you do have a picture of the fence, but we'll see how tall it is, exactly what the material is, technical drawings that accompany the site plan. From what I see here, I think that you heard what we said at workshop, and I feel like you have, at least personally, heard us and responded. My concern just, though, is the level of detail and specificity in the plans, just to make sure that we're covered and that when the building inspector goes out, he has a really good set of documents to make sure that everything is correct.
So what do you recommend to try to meet all of those conditions?
Well, if you could make it a condition of your approval that it's added to the TY Lynn drawing, I could certainly do that. It wouldn't be a big deal to have him do it, which would provide the scale, the size, and the materials.
I also want to add, Mr. Chair, that the lighting plan, there's lights against Titus Avenue. I have no idea spillage on those. I get what's going on here, and I appreciate Mr. Nolan's trying to do it this way, but I think a more detailed plan would help in the settlement of this entire issue at this moment. In fact, how the lights are going to be put in there, on what kind of base are they going to be put on, just the normal stuff that we have, how a fence is going to be anchored to the ground and exactly where that is going, because it's not indicated on anything that I have seen so far.
I thought we saw
Just to-
pictures of the lights. didn't
Yes, that's it. The pictures of the light posts are in there, and they're already all existing except for one of them. Titus Avenue has its own county lights in it, and just to reiterate on the lighting, that technically is not part of the scope of this review. I added it in there at your request, Mr. Richards, and I was trying to,
But
show
there is
that.
a new one being added, is my understanding,
I
correct?
did hope
So-
to add the one, yes.
On the site plan review checklist, I kind of went down and, a number of things that are listed here are not, I think, on the landscape or lighting plans, but I also want to be cognizant of my understanding that this is not necessarily a site plan, as it's a settlement agreement. So, but that they're on the list because they are important for different reasons. The signature block, which we've already talked about, scale, legend, north arrow, drawing scale, site data block, site dimensions, tax account number, et cetera, et cetera. So I do think that most of those things are on the as-built drawings, but they are not present on the landscaping plans and the lighting plans. And so I don't want to be nitpicky, but I do want to make sure that, particularly the things that I raised, like the details on the planter box, details on the fencing, scale, exactly how long those lengths of fencing are going to be, et cetera, are included on anything that we approve. And I think it's important for us to see those as part of the approval, because that gives us a really clear indication of what we're approving. So right now, I have a sense, I think we're on the same page, but I'd really like to be certain is all.
How's the rest of the board feel?
I just would like to have one,
Okay.
I would like to have one plan to look at with everything that's final, without having any extra pages. I just think it's dangerous in a way that it could cause some conflict down the road.
We have submitted separate landscape plans in almost everything we've developed with the town. There's always been a separate drawing for landscaping, and
This
so it's not unusual for us to submit it separately. We did our best, but this isn't the exact
Bernie,
section
There
of
should be
the,
back and forth between her and him.
It's the board.
Yeah, she's stating something and he's making a defense.
I let him finish. I'm fine with
I
you
didn't
finishing.
I wasn't trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to respond to your question that it's been our practice in the past that it's been a separate drawing, that's all. But if you guys would be okay with approving it based on what you see, I'll have that added to the plan before we ask the chairman to sign it, if that would be acceptable to everybody. It is spelled out what the plantings are, what the fence is, how long it is, and it is to scale.
I'm sorry, we don't have that tonight. You do have it, though.
It's on this landscape drawing is actually to scale, because it's just a blown up section of the T.Y. Lynn drawing that you're also looking at. And just has, for sake of being able to see it in a little bit of a larger format. But that is the exact same drawing, just a blown up section of that drawing, which is not unordinary. Again, we could certainly have them added to the T.Y. Lynn drawing. I'm hoping not to have to wait another month for an approval
And I'm
for
trying to
have them.
figure out a way to get there. So
Right, I understand that.
Yeah. So let me ask my questions again. So you mentioned, Brad, that the length of the fences aren't listed on the plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, the length, since there's no scale, right, on the drawing or on the blow-up, right, it's difficult to know exactly how long those fences are because the measurement's not there and the scale is not there.
Is it on the other plans that you mentioned? That's what I'm trying to get.
It would be, if we have that added to it, I can verbally give you the dimensions, but the trees are already located there. And the only reason we have to leave them back is for the roots of the trees, so the posts don't go in and interfere with the, but the sections are 16 feet, 24, 24, and 16. They go in it's all symmetrical across there, just as it's drawn.
I got it. So I think what I'm hearing is everybody says you listened, you got it, you took some of the input, you made the changes. I'm trying to figure out how do we get to the point where Ms. Hafner's comfortable, Mr. Huber's comfortable, and everybody else is comfortable that we're doing it the right way. So I'm going to defer to the town, and what's a proposed way we can get, to the next step of this. So I'm open to, I want to figure out a way to
Sure.
meet everybody's needs.
So I think what can be helpful is to come to a consensus as a board of what kind of fence specifically you want. And if you do have specifications for the landscaping, what kind of landscaping, or if it's general of it just needs to meet the landscape guidelines. If you have a preference for the type of bollard, et cetera. I think if you are as specific as possible, that is helpful for the applicant. It's difficult for the applicant if anything is sort of left open. And then in terms of moving forward with an approval, either way, the applicant is going to have to wait until all of the things are on the plan anyway, and then the town staff will then have to be responsible for, okay, well, did the board intend for it to be like this or like this, right? And so either way, the applicant is going to have to wait until everything is on the plans before things can move forward anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily, I won't say rush, but I wouldn't necessarily approve it today thinking that it's going to necessarily expedite the process, because they're still going to have to produce everything and put it on the page. But I think that it's helpful if this board, like I said, can be very specific of what they want. Then the design professional can add it to the plan, and then hopefully it's to the specifications and it can be signed right at next month's meeting if it's that quick of a turnaround.
Well, so let me ask another question then. If we could get to all the specifics and tell them what exactly needs to be there, can we do preliminary tonight if the board wants to, and then do the final at our workshop so he doesn't have to wait the whole month?
I believe that, well,
What's our date that we have to have this resolved?
Does this have to have a public hearing? Okay.
It's a public hearing tonight.
It's a public hearing tonight, but I'm saying that if you're going to move forward at the workshop, because you're saying that's when you'd want to make a decision, potentially.
Do a special meeting at the workshop is what I'm doing.
If it doesn't need a public hearing, then I'm not sure. I guess you could if you wanted to.
It's just I'm trying to figure out options to get this moving.
Sure. Can I ask just a couple of questions? Because just in looking at the hearing we just had about the sign at Life Storage, these were essentially conditions of Mr. Huber's approval. Shouldn't they just be written as that to add these things in the approval? The site plan and the reason I'm here is for specifically 5 things, and none of them include landscaping or lighting. So if you make those a condition of your approval, I don't understand why that drawing is, it depicts all the things that I was required to put on that drawing to bring to you per the lawsuit and per the settlement agreement. So therefore, if you guys want to add additional conditions on that approval, it's certainly within your purview to do so. I was taking them and trying to quantify them by putting them in writing, but I didn't come in suggesting that we bring these landscapes or add a fence there or do those things. These were my perception walking away from the workshop meeting with those were going to be conditions of the approval because everybody seemed to be on the same page with that. And I can't see why the approval couldn't be issued tonight based on the drawing that I've submitted and adding those as conditions on there to add a fence if you wanted full-length fence. A full-length fence if you want it 32 inches high, say it's, and do that. But it seems like that's what I just witnessed in the prior hearing. So, and not to be disrespectful at all to the board.
So hold
I'm not trying not to. I just
go there.
understand the urgency here.
And in regards of respect, what we're trying to make sure is we do this right. So since additional elements were added, the comment was made they'd like to see it official so that we're not in a situation this is what we said or did or wrote. And that helps it, right? The graphical helps it. But I'm going to go to legal because he's got a point. These were not part of the conditions, were they?
Well, the issues in the settlement agreement, these all address the parking lot that was not approved. And so the board was authorized, or is authorized, to place conditions on that parking lot before it's approved. And so, as I understand, the landscaping and the lighting, those are conditions on the parking lot that would gain its approval from the board. So
Okay.
yes, they're not sort of, this is not a standalone discussion about landscaping more generally or lighting more generally. It's in connection with this specific parking lot that was not approved and was raised in the lawsuit as something that needed to be approved by the planning board, subject to reasonable restrictions placed on it by the planning board.
Got it. So I guess what we're all trying to figure out is how do we get this resolved? And I heard your proposal. I'm hearing staff. I'm trying to come to a compromise. How do we get there? So I'm open to ideas. If anybody else on the board has suggestions.
One thing on Labella's comments, number E, or letter E, I don't believe we have any of the description of the planter boxes or any of that stuff. Or if there's going to be bollards there, I think it was represented to us tonight that the planter would be enough. If it were bolted down, I would like to see where that would be. That's a safety issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as far as you're concerned, Mr. Chair, I agree that I would be, to resolve this as quickly as possible. But in order to do that, I think we need all of the details.
I would prefer to see all the details in writing.
Rest of the board, how do you feel? I already got two, so I'm not going to have enough votes.
No, I understand. It's asking for them in writing, and that's what we did bring with us tonight. And that was what I walked away from the workshop with, the understanding being that these were conditions being placed on it, and place them as conditions. I'm not a matter of not trying to comply whatsoever. It's just a matter of if adding that fence that looks similar to what you saw in that drawing is a condition of the approval, let it be a condition of your approval. I think that's the way it was represented to be at the workshop.
Yeah, I'm hearing, the only thing we're at an impasse on is the details, right? And we could,
But
when
they
you say
can
they're in
be
writing, I agree, you got most of it here. And the question is some of the specifics, but there's not a plan that represents it as Ms. Hefner recommended, as what she's used to seeing since she's been on the board. So,
Understand.
yeah.
I think it's safe to protect you and to protect us, to have everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
the drawing could be added to your resolution, the drawing that I submitted showing the landscaping as a condition of your approval.
It could be, but then it would not get review. It would just get a staff review. And like Shelley is saying, it's for both of us, right? We don't want to have,
Not sure how it's for me, but
because we
that's
want to make
okay.
sure everybody, with as many details as possible put on the application, it's clear for us and clear for you that eliminate as many discrepancies as possible. So you have protection, and the board
I don't
and the
need any
town has
protection.
protection.
Yeah, so let me make another proposal. So if we did gather everything, as much detail as we want, and we make it as a condition that the town and the legal has to review it, that it meets everything that we agreed to, can we move forward? Any opposition?
So obviously the board in the past has moved forward with conditional approval, absolutely. There is the risk that staff reviewing it does not capture the intention of the board. There's always going to be something lost in communication. If it's something minor or something that there can be wiggle room, then that's fine. But it has been done before. But I would also agree that everything needs to be part of a plan set. but yes, it's possible, but the board would have to be very specific in their intention and what they want. So exactly what kind of fence you want, what height you want that fence to be. Do you want it to be along the entire perimeter of that, the northern parking lot? You want, these to be, for the plantings to be 4 or 5 feet apart, and are the plantings that are depicted in the submission appropriate? And then in terms of like the bollards, do you want them to be bolted in place, or do they have to be set in concrete? How far apart do they have to be? So, like I said, it's usually easier when you have a plan, because then you can look at it and say, oh yes, I approve every element of this because I'm looking at it, versus you all letting us know all the specifics. But again, obviously you all have approved things and approved site plans conditionally, but that does leave some room for interpretation by staff.
So I'm going to go back to legal real quick here. So obviously, because of the history of this, what's the recommendation?
The recommendation, as I said earlier, I think you should be as specific in terms of what you are requiring as possible. The process by which you get to that point, I don't think that's quite as important as, at the end of the day, whatever result you get to is as specific as it possibly can be, so everybody knows this is what was approved, and someone can go there and look at it and say, okay, this complies with what was approved. What you do to ultimately get to that point, how you get to that point, I don't think is as important as whatever result you end up at. There's a specific set of criteria and requirements that everyone can look at and understand this is what the board agreed on and approved, and this is what must be done.
Okay, so I'm hearing from several of the board members there's some uneasiness without that. So I'm trying to figure out, let's go through it and talk about the detail and then determine the next steps at that point. So the applicants presented some information, granted not in a normal manner, similar manner to what we have seen before, but what input or questions do we have with them based on what's there besides what we've already brought up? So let's talk about the fence. Is the fence depicted in the pictures okay? Does somebody want it all the way across, or do you want it as depicted with the specific dimensions called out?
We need to know how long each of the specific sections of fence are to be, and that should be on the plan. We need to know how tall the fence is supposed to be. That should be on the plan. We should know how much distance there is between each section of fence on the plan. We should know material. Is it vinyl or wood? Is the color that is in the picture the same color that you intend to use?
So you said wood. So that's what
Is it wood?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
wood, 36 inches tall. The two center sections are 24 feet long. The two outer sections are 16 feet long.
How much space
there's
is there between?
10 feet from edge of fence to edge of fence straddling the tree.
And how far back from the road?
It's well back of the road. I don't have the exact number, but it's more than 15 feet.
Get in line with the existing trees that are there.
Yes, exactly. Centered on those, which allows for the car bumpers to come up over the spots without hitting that fence.
And how far from the curbing on the parking lot?
3 feet.
Okay. So
And painted black. Wood painted black.
painted black. So just with the fence, that's a number of things that I hear what you're saying, but they should be on the plan.
Right, but I think that's what we talked about, make it specific, right? So when he comes back with that plan,
Okay,
if it
okay,
says,
okay,
this says
okay,
32
okay.
inches,
We're
Okay.
basically
that's
doing a
not
workshop,
okay, right? We're approving, one of our conditions would be it's a 36-inch tall fence, black, wood, with those dimensions that
So,
we just listed.
Yeah,
in terms
That's
of
the
process,
condition of our approval.
in terms of process, are you suggesting that we walk through this, leave him with a set of things, then he goes back and gets the plans drawn to those specs, comes back, then we approve?
And if it meets those very specific
Okay, yeah, I can go.
conditions of
Yeah,
the approval,
yeah, yeah.
which,
Well,
again,
we
if
wouldn't be
specify, we can't just say it's going to be a fence, right? You're going to put a fence there. That leaves it way too open-ended. We don't see that. Right now, we're dictating, and we're saying we're approving a 3-foot-tall black wood fence with those dimensions.
Right, but what I'm
It's not
saying
what
is,
comes back on the plan that he comes back with to town to get signed, then it's not an approved plan.
so I would not be comfortable approving a plan with all of these conditions. This is too many conditions.
I don't think that's the same thing you're saying.
It's not yeah, what you're saying is,
I gotta tell
let's
you, before
go
we.
through it.
Yeah, we seem to be reaching a decision here without a public hearing being opened, which is making me a little uncomfortable.
Well, before we have a public hearing, I think we should clarify exactly what he's asking for, and that's what we're doing. So I think we're doing it the right way.
Okay, but I think the public hearing would also
Then,
help you
then
with
once
some
we
of
know, otherwise we're opening a public hearing, and they're gonna make comments on
Yeah.
something they don't know what it is,
Well,
which
if
there's
we're gonna
nobody
be
here.
adding,
Yeah.
I would like that fence to circle around on the east side of that corner, at least to give an illusion to go back 4 or 5 feet, that it is giving us that farm look. And I also think that breaking it up for the trees doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So
those
personally,
trees-
I
if
kinda
those-
like the trees that are there.
I get it, but
So-
if the trees happen to die, then I've got a gap there with no tree, right? And a fence. That doesn't make any sense. In the long term, I'm thinking of, not for what it's today.
I could see bushes dying, but trees don't always die that easily. I don't agree with that. I'm
Well-
sorry, I just don't. I got it.
I
It's your
thought we
opinion.
were,
Yeah,
I thought there were no bad ideas at a brainstorm.
okay, so it's an idea. I don't think it's a great one, but go ahead. Anybody else agree with what Alan's stating or have an opinion on it?
I mean, I like the idea of turning the fence
Okay.
to the east another 16 feet.
Yeah, I mean,
Make
I
that,
want the illusion of
make
it.
that corner.
Just for the record, I really kind of like the way it is now, to be honest, so I'm a little bit different than the rest of the board. I went by
That's all
with the
right.
trees. You mentioned you didn't like the trees if they die, or, they could die.
I'm just thinking that if they're not there, there's gonna be a gap in that fence for what reason?
Right, but what are you suggesting? Take the trees out?
No, that the fence go the entire length and that we go before, in front or back of the trees. There are other options here.
I don't know. What does the rest of the board think?
I don't think we need to get hung up on this. I think,
Well, we got to
We-
tell him what we're thinking so that when he comes back, he's got the detail.
okay,
So 2 people are mentioning they like the cut. Bradley, do you like it cutting like that?
I understand the purpose, but I think that anything that we can do to increase the screening of that parking lot is a good idea. Not because it's my idea, but because those are the MUC guidelines. And so
Yep.
if an additional, when we layer things like that, when we have fence and tree or tree and fence and then shrubs, it's layers of screening. So I would go along with that.
So, I'm sorry, Dan, you didn't mention, did you want one fence or you don't?
I'm okay either way.
Okay. Nate?
The spacing you said was 3 foot from the curb to those trees?
Yes.
So
To
much,
allow bumpers to come
right,
up.
much encroachment really where now we have damaged fence from,
Correct. And
if we were to go to the south.
yes.
moving it
Yeah,
front
I
to
would be
the
nervous moving it to the south and you move it to the north, we're gonna run into a little bit of the same tree root issues because we're told we should stay about 5 feet outside of the trunk of the tree.
Right. So being the curb line, is the 3-inch flowering crabapple currently existing on
Yes.
the east side? So that
Yes,
is there.
all
do,
the trees are in.
do you know what the dimension would be if we turned it to the east up to that tree?
It's
Roughly.
got to be in the neighborhood, 12 feet probably.
So when it-
I think it's a little less than the 16 somebody had mentioned, but
And turning that corner would be
doesn't bother me
not
any.
a bad idea,
No.
honestly. It would-
No,
I like the
doesn't.
farm look. I actually I wasn't at the workshop, but I did watch it, and the split rail to me is a much better option in this setting to me. I think you came up with a great
Balance,
idea there,
yeah.
especially with the current piece up by the barn and the way the wood
Right,
is there already.
right.
So I like the split rail. I do like turning it to the east, and I'm fine with the spacing as is. with the trees in line, just for the, I think we're gonna have more of an issue if we do try to put that up to the bumpers and
Turn to the east, how far, guys? I'm
to
sorry,
that tree is my, and, you know, to the crabapple roughly. Is the snow removal go east-west on this typically?
Yes,
So you're just, it wouldn't be pushed towards that fence either.
correct.
Shelley, do you have anything to add? Okay. So that covered the fence. So now we want to talk about the landscaping?
So right now, on the plan, the fence sections are 24 feet long, the middle ones. And there's 2 shrubs. So that seems like a long distance to go with only 2 shrubs.
Agreed.
So that's why the scale
Yeah,
is
I don't think it
important.
was intended to be just 2 shrubs. Those are drawn a bit larger than what you're seeing there, unless those shrubs are 4 feet wide, but it was to show the area where they would go.
So that's what I'm trying to get at with this having a scale drawing, right? You see, so like here, we both agree, right, that 2 shrubs isn't enough, but it kind of looks like it might fly on this plan, right, because of the way that things are drawn. So that's why I really think that having dimensions on the plan are important, because it provides more clarity.
On the fence
I don't think I have any
sections,
problem with the plants. I think the number may be an issue once we get a scale drawing. And adding 3 to 2 is not that big of a deal on a condition.
no, it's the split rail, are those 8-foot sections between
They
posts?
are.
Okay, so,
So it'd be 3 sections and 2 sections.
Right, so-
2, 3, and 3.
right. So if we were to put 3 between each post, breaking up
That's
on the
kind
2
of-
foot, 1 foot in, 2 foot, 2 foot, 2 foot kind of idea.
Yes. And we could definitely add a little bit
And then
more
the
than
post
that.
would become,
Right, and all of this could be depicted on the site plan, which we could just approve.
We got that,
And
guys.
it's all
We
included.
stated that several times, okay. What's the next comment regarding
I think we
landscaping?
have an issue with the bollard planter situation. I don't know what those planters are made out of. I don't know how they bolt to the ground.
So I thought at the workshop, some recommendations were made. He's not here tonight by John.
Yes, he had requested that we either bolt them down or add bollards into a, in the vehicular area. And the planters are very rigid. They are heavy steel channel. When they're bolted down, they are not moving. They're heavier than like a Jersey barrier. They're right up there.
Yeah.
There.
is there a spacing? Do you know the current spacing on those roughly?
They're approximately 6 feet apart each.
Gap
it's-
in them?
Yeah, 6, and we have a dangling heavy chain
Right.
between them.
So you're not going to put bollards, or you are? I'm sorry. Those
I
are
was
gonna
not
be-
planning on, we were planning on bolting the planters down, which we feel it'd be just as, it's made of the same material a bollard would be made from.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We just need to know how that process is going to happen.
I'll just add, obviously, you're going to want the specifications and the location on the plan.
Right.
You might want to have the installation of not the installation, but the bolting down of the planters to be approved by the fire marshal or by a code enforcement officer or something along those lines. I'm sure the applicant can include the details of that, but I think it probably makes sense, the placement, the materials, the height, that sort of thing, and then having a code professional determine if it's installed correctly. Or you all could decide, but that might just make it a little easier.
I don't think we need an engineered anchor per se, but just access, is that what we're looking at for the fire marshal?
Well, just to inspect it and to ensure that it can withstand some sort of impact, because it's supposed to act as a barrier to vehicles.
Right, we're going to have a 5,000-pound
All right,
something going at least 2 or 3 miles an hour.
I think they'd stop as is. they're happy. They're substantial. But
So anything else regarding the landscaping? Then I'll move on to the lighting, if there isn't anything else. All right, so the lighting's not part of the plan, however, you are adding one light to the parking
We
lot?
were considering it, and if you guys don't object to it, it's, we have one more of those concrete poles that from when we ordered them originally, and we have the fixture. So we would ideally install it that way. It's one of the few areas I could add it because it doesn't cross any of the drive aisles or under concrete. It's only, I'd only have to wire it across the grassy area.
In detail, which one are you adding? It's the one that says.
The
light post
one
type?
on the east side, right,
It would be
Says no,
closest
bottom
to
of your sheet.
the,
That's the right side of your sheet.
to Titus Mower.
It says no.
yes.
The right-hand one. Blue dot, right there.
Oh, this one.
It says no.
Ah, that's what I was looking for. Okay. And it'd be exactly the same as the others?
Yes.
Any questions on that for anybody?
The Kelvin on this seems a little cool. Is that just the range that it uses, or you can set that to whatever you want, or?
They are settable, that's, or some of them were that we looked at, but we settled on that one because they have the plastic shield over them that takes away a bit of that brightness. Normally, we prefer the 4,000 Kelvin on all our sites. It gives them a little bit more of a yellow light. But they are the same ones that are in all the other lighting positions on that lot that have been there since 4 years ago. It's not that purpley gas station bright light.
So does anybody object to this other additional light pole? Are we good?
Are there any foot candles for this? Do we know that it won't spill into the residential area?
I don't know the exact foot candles for it, but I can tell you they don't carry very far. They're, again, the same as the picture, and we would be about 25 feet from the property boundary. We have much closer ones in other positions that do not have a spillover issue.
So if you look at the originally approved plan, there were 2 light poles at the eastern edge of the proposed parking lot that are right on the property line that were approved previously. This one's further in, so it's the same light. I would assume it would be okay.
I'm sure, but
Right. It's
I-
a really comfortably lit property. It doesn't.
I understand. Usually there's a little more detail.
I understand. I just thought I was trying to respond to a condition of your approval and not looking at it as a resubmission of drawings. And I'm sorry for that. But watching the case prior to this where they came in with no sign-based design, you guys essentially designed it and agreed to it based on him telling you they'd be gray bricks and they'd be about 2 feet tall and they would be this. And we're talking about landscaping. In a small wooden fence.
Right, but this is a mixed-use commercial district. It has additional guidelines.
I understand, and I'm trying to respond to them. And again, I had
I'm trying to get
submitted-
you through this, Mr. Nolan, so.
I
work
appreciate
with
it,
me.
and I'll shut up.
Yeah.
All right.
So is there any other things regarding what he's proposed that we want to give input on before I open the public hearing?
I'll just add, the planters are currently movable, correct? I know that they're heavy.
Yes, they are.
I would maybe consider having those planters be at a max 5 feet apart as opposed to 6, just because usually bollards are 3 to 5 feet apart.
Yep.
So just if it's possible to do 5 feet, and then maybe that means one additional or planter at the end or something, because obviously you're going to be putting them closer together. But that's usually standard 3 to 5 feet for bollards.
Does that work, Mr. Nolan?
Yes. Yeah, not a problem at all. We actually have more than enough to do that.
Okay. Anything else before I open the public hearing?
I have a question about snow storage. Usually that's on the plan. How do you handle snow storage?
Most of it gets pushed to the east side of the development, but we also, we own a loader, so we move it out when it gets, we haven't had to the last 2 winters. They've been pretty mild. But the winter prior to that, we end up having to shuttle snow off that property. So it didn't take away parking spots.
So adding that fence curve won't cause you a problem with snow storage?
It will not.
Anything else? Now's the time.
Just as we're looking at the resolution that we were given to by LaBella, we're all in agreement that 1, 2, and 4 are fine. We're only considering 3 and 5 as needing extra. Is that correct too?
Well, we didn't,
1, 2, and 4,
one is not under our purview. That's the number
the
of.
number of units. Well, it was
Number of
part of
units.
the.
That is within your purview.
Yeah,
Oh, that is within
Yeah.
our?
Yes.
Oh, we have
But
to
we-
approve that?
I think we've come to the agreement that
Well, I mean, you can further
units.
discuss it if you wish.
this is the resolution.
We're good. That's what I'm hearing.
Just
Yep.
got it.
So
It's in
1,
that paperclip.
number 2 was the number of parking spaces.
Right.
According to the workshop, nobody's brought it up here
Right.
again tonight.
So that's what I'm saying. 1, 2, and then the curb cut was going to be done anyway. So
Yeah.
if we're all in agreement that 1, 2, and 4 are fine, 3 and 5 are the only ones we're really looking at right now. 3 definitely has some changes based on the fence construction.
The only thing with 4, I think it can be open. I just want to elevate that I think the original intent of that condition was that there were concerns from neighbors who lived on Lorraine Drive about the additional traffic that was going to be generated down what was formerly just an entirely residential street. And so I think that our intent, and jump in if you folks remember something different, was that it was to be blocked off in order to mitigate the impacts of the additional traffic, and with the intention of it being until the last of those residential houses were gone. But I think that that was a number of years ago, and things have changed since then. And it seems as though there'll be some residential units that will remain there, right?
Yes.
So we can't keep that closed off forever. But I just wanted to surface that I think that was the intent. But as things have changed and not changed, we have come to a point where I guess we just need to move forward with that and opening up that access. And I remember it as he was allowed to have the curb cut, but it was going to be blocked off. That is my recollection, which could be incorrect.
I think you're correct, from what I recall, but
And it was just a condition to block it with cones or something of that effect.
any further discussion on any of that? Okay. With that, let me, Mr. Nolan, anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'll open up the public hearing. I do not see anybody wishing to speak to this. I'm going to propose we close the public hearing. Some might say they want to leave it open, but I'm going to propose we close it.
Well, the only reason I would suggest you leave it open is because we're going to get a new site plan for the areas that we've put conditions on. And the public has not had an opportunity to see this or to comment on it.
We discussed it in pretty much detail, though, so I'm fine with closing. I'm okay with closing the public hearing. I'm going to ask one more time. Anybody else besides Alan got a concern?
I'm not saying that that's my overriding concern. I'm just saying that
Close the public hearing. So now we got to determine the next steps and make it clear going forward. What I took is we're asking the applicant to, if you want to come back up, Mr. Nolan. I guess the problem thing is just looking for your concurrence. We'll table this until you can provide the full details and get this approved. You can come to another workshop, which I would recommend. Let's just make sure it's clean, and then we can get it approved at the next meeting. That's what I'm hearing. Now, you can oppose that and say you would rather we move forward, but I think you've heard the sentiment of the board, and I'm trying to avoid any.
It's up to you. Could you poll the board and just see if everybody's in agreement with that, or can we just make these conditions of the approval as we've
Sure we
as
can.
we've done with other.
I don't have any problem doing that. Ms. Hefner, how do you feel? You're the one that brought it up, so, yeah. Mr. Yanish?
I'd be okay with just adding conditions to an approval.
Mr. Richards?
I want to see the plan.
Yeah, I'm okay with adding conditions to the approval.
I'm on board with the conditions. I think this has been going on for a very long time. I think the town's ready for this to be passed, and we're going to we just spent an hour going over conditions, so I think we could get to that point.
Mr.
I'd like to see the final drawings. I think part of the reason that we're here is because the paperwork and things like that have not been clear. So I think it's really important that we do this with as detailed approach as possible. But I am in favor of, if you want to expedite it by approving it at a workshop, and that's something that we don't necessarily do for everybody. That's a helpful compromise.
So it looks like I'm at a stalemate 3-3. So does the town have any concerns? Do you have enough time to advertise if we want to? Would you want to do this at the workshop to get it wrapped up?
It doesn't matter at this point.
It does, I don't believe that it has to be, it doesn't need a public hearing, correct?
No. we
So it
just
does
closed
not
the
need to
public-
be advertised. And the public hearing is closed.
Oh, okay. But
But it can be added to the agenda.
could it be added to the, so it would be public, it's just be on the agenda, just not as a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, and we could put it, we could do that right at 7 o'clock and,
Absolutely.
right. And if you could get us the drawings ahead of time so we can step through that process and resolve it. So, having said that, we got your concurrence to table and move forward in that manner?
So just to reiterate, board members, this is the June 10th Planning Board Workshop meeting at 7 o'clock. Yes?
Yep. Now, can I ask another question?
If that's what everyone would like to do, sure.
I'm asking the applicant, if it's okay with him, it's okay with me.
How about the rest of the board members, or you just want to do it?
It's up to the board, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I
It's-
was going to vote if that's the case, but
Okay.
yeah. Anybody opposed to it? I'm just trying to get it out of the way.
I'm sorry. I missed something. What were you saying? Were you talking about a date?
At the next workshop meeting on June 10th, we'll actually hold a hearing to approve the plans.
Oh, a public hearing?
No, it's-
No.
Well, no, we will not be
We're gonna
holding a hearing.
I was asking for clarification.
I
I'm
will
sorry.
advertise it as a regular meeting. We will
Okay.
be holding a regular meeting on June 10th at 7 o'clock PM. And then we will hold the workshop meeting preceding
Oh,
that
okay.
meeting.
I understand. Thank you.
And then anybody opposed to doing it that way? Nope, okay. The one other thing I have for LaBella, you did put together a great resolution, but can you make sure it now matches the things that we,
Absolutely, I can do
tonight.
that. And I'll provide it to you ahead of time.
okay. And Mr. Nolan too, or you can't provide the motion to him?
That's fine if, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to
I-
read my items I have?
If you could, please, that would be helpful.
So, I'm sorry, did the board make a motion?
I was going to ask you, not yet, so you can go over them now. just to make
Okay, so I have landscaping plan detail be depicted on the T.Y. Lin drawing with scale, species, and size. I have submit fencing detail with type, height, and length on T.Y. Lin drawing. Detail on planters, boxes, bollards to be used on the patio on T.Y. Lin drawing. And I thought I heard somebody say add outdoor patio and seating on the T.Y. Lin drawing, or no?
We can't do that. I think that has to be a referral that we would make to the town board.
Yeah.
Okay, I will remove that. And then I also have what we spoke about, the fencing be 3 feet tall, black wooden open type, spaced 3 feet from parking lot curb. Fencing be extended with a section of fencing along the east side. 2, 3, and 3 8-foot sections of fencing. Bollards, planters are heavy steel installed at a maximum 5 feet apart with a chain connecting them with approvals from the fire marshal or code enforcement officer. And then I have advertised the June 10th workshop meeting for the for the I-square case as a regular meeting. Am I missing anything, board?
I just want one clarification. Did we recommend the fence all the way across, or are we keeping it the way it is? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I believe it's as depicted in the drawing, so the
Okay.
16, 24, 24, and 16 sections, as well as an additional section that's going around the east side.
Isn't that what I got?
Yes.
The two,
Yes, I just
three,
wanted
and
to
three
clarify.
8-foot sections of fencing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I heard it the right way,
Okay.
that's all.
I would just say in terms of process, if it is at all possible to submit the drawings in advance. That way, if anybody here sees something that is missing or whatever, they could bring it up ahead of time so that it wouldn't have to, it would help speed things along rather than catching something at the workshop meeting and blah, 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 blah.
One additional thing I had in my notes, and I don't know if there is a decision, but the sections that the section of fence that's 24 feet should have 3 plantings between the fence and the right-of-way, as opposed to 2 that are shown on the plan.
Yeah, I think that there was some discussion about if the fence were 24 feet long, that 2 plantings would not be sufficient. So we would have to boost in some manner the number of shrubs or that's in front of that
I
fencing.
think
Yeah.
if it comes to that point, we can add 4 plants if we needed to. I don't think that that's too much of a condition, but I also think that it's meant to be screening.
Sure,
Not
I'm
meant
just
to
trying to
be
be as detailed as
Detailed,
possible.
yeah, so I think there
yeah,
should be 3 or 4 between each of those posts, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And when we see the scale drawings, it'll be much easier to tell.
I think essentially the idea was for, you have that 24 section of fence and it includes 8 subsections, and that there should be essentially a plant for every 8 section within there. I don't know if that's too complicated, but
I think as long as the applicant understands what you're saying, I think that will be fine.
I would like to reiterate to Mr. Huber's question about the submitting of the drawings. Just as an FYI, since this is scheduling a regular meeting for the June 10th meeting, the cutoff date for the June meeting was May 14th, just so you are aware. Since you're moving it up, you're taking away the time.
Right. So, I mean, that I
So
think...
I try to work with all the applicants to get them in a timely manner.
Sure. So, I mean, I think that the intention of us moving up the hearing is to help the applicant, right?
So from today's date, it'll be 2 weeks before the June 10th meeting,
Okay.
just to give you
I understand the
the
tight
time
turnaround,
frame.
but
Can you
The-
work with that, I think is the question.
Yes.
Yeah, he can work with it, so,
There you go.
okay. Thank you as we work through that. We just want to make sure it's done right, done once. With
Can I
that,
give
I
you a
do
motion?
take a motion for a table.
PB 2024-0505, that this case be adjourned to this workshop on June 10th.
I'll second.
Did you say adjourned or tabled? Same thing.
It's all the same thing.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And we have 2 absent. Michelle, anything else before the board?
No, sir.
Good night.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Hold on 1 second, let me finish this. Hold on.
Did I have a,
Motion to adjourn, all in favor, please say aye.
we needed
Aye.
a second.
Oh, second. Mr. Huber, second.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.